Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're taking a fresh look at the Data Analyst's ultimate toolkit. Look, even if you're already familiar with data, staring down a massive unstructured data set can be totally daunting. So we're going to break down the absolutely essential tools every analyst relies on, map out exactly how they integrate, and show off their real-world power by solving a high-stakes business mystery together.
But hey, before we get to the modern tech stack, let me ask you this. Who actually invented the first spreadsheet? You're probably thinking of some software developers in the 1970s or 80s, right? Well, actually, archaeologists trace the origins of data analysis all the way back to ancient Egypt and the building of the pyramids. The Egyptians documented their calculations on papyri, which is basically a paper-like material, and we now look at those as the earliest examples of spreadsheets and checklists. It turns out, the urge to organize data is an ancient human trait. Okay, let's dive into this and check out the modern versions of those papyri.
I want you to think of the modern data analyst's workflow like a highly specialized tool belt. We've got four main pockets here: spreadsheets, query languages, visualization tools, and programming languages. Throughout this explainer, we're going to pull out each of these tools and show you exactly when and how to deploy them.
Now, a tool belt is great, but you also need a framework to actually build something. We'll be using the foundational 6-phase data analysis process developed by Google: ask, prepare, process, analyze, share, and act. These 6 steps are going to be our roadmap, guiding us straight from raw data to a confident, data-driven decision. To see how our tool belt and roadmap actually work together, let's jump right into our case study, the mystery of high employee turnover. A massive organization came to a team of analysts with a huge problem. People were joining the company, but they weren't staying. So, data is going to be our magnifying glass here to figure out why. Because this mystery specifically involves the company's workforce, we're stepping into a niche field known as people analytics. Basically, a people analyst collects and analyzes workforce data to get insights into employees' work lives. And the goal? Unlocking potential, optimizing team dynamics, and fundamentally improving how the whole company operates. The pain point in our mystery hinges on one incredibly critical metric: 1 year. The company realized that a huge number of new employees were literally walking out the door before they even reached their first work anniversary. I mean, that is a massive loss of talent and resources. So the business question became crystal clear. How can the organization improve the retention rate for these new hires?
And that brings us right to phase 1 of our roadmap, the ask phase. This is where analysts sit down with managers to define what success actually looks like. They ask things like, what do new employees need to learn to be successful in their first year? Or, what do you suspect is the main cause of all this dissatisfaction? You really have to know what you're looking for before you start digging.
Moving right along into phase 2, the prepare phase, the analysts needed to look at historical data to see if the company had any past employee surveys. To pull this from massive company databases, our analysts reach into their toolbelt for their very first essential tool: query languages. Structured query language, or SQL, using programs like MySQL or BigQuery, lets analysts isolate, select, and download really specific information from massive databases. It's basically how you ask a computer system to give you exactly the historical data you want.
Still in that prepare phase, the team decided to launch a brand new online survey for recent hires. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the data was structured right out of the gate. Look closely. We have parameters for department and tenure, but absolutely no names. It's strictly aggregated and summarized data. By setting up rules to hide personally identifiable information, the analysts could securely focus on the broader trends. Okay, the surveys are back, which means we hit phase 3, process. That raw data needs to be cleaned up so it's complete, correct, and actually relevant. To do this, analysts pull out the second major tool from their belt: spreadsheets. Applications like Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets are the absolute building blocks of data analysis. They let you collect, store, organize, and sort information super efficiently, turning a messy pile of survey answers into a neat, structured format.
And a critical part of this process phase involves robust security protocols. The analysts deliberately restricted access to the data to just a few people, and they uploaded the raw data straight to an internal data warehouse for an extra layer of security. Honestly, handling data securely isn't just a step, it's a fundamental responsibility for any data analyst.
All right, we made it to phase 4, analyze. Now, when you have a massive amount of cleaned survey data, sometimes a basic spreadsheet just isn't going to cut it. That's when you grab the third tool, Programming languages. Languages like Python and R are absolute game changers for this exact scenario. They allow analysts to process and analyze data at incredible scale, crunching through complex numbers to uncover the hidden trends buried in thousands of responses.
And you know what? That rigorous analysis absolutely paid off. So the crucial point is this. The data proved that employees who went through a long, complicated hiring process were way more likely to quit within a year. But on the flip side, those who experienced an efficient, transparent evaluation process were much more likely to stay. Just like that, the mystery of the high turnover was solved.
But finding the answer isn't the end of the job. Welcome to Phase 5, Share. You have to communicate these findings to the big bosses, and handing them a giant spreadsheet of raw code just won't work. And to the fourth and final tool in our tool belt, visualization tools. Programs like Tableau, with its awesome drag-and-drop features, or Looker help analysts turn complex numbers into a compelling visual story that stakeholders can easily digest.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean by a visual story. Instead of making stakeholders squint at raw survey scores, they get this clear, colorful chart showing the stark difference in retention based on the hiring experience. By sharing this intuitive visual report, the analyst ensured that the data would actually drive real, productive conversations.
Which brings us to our final step, Phase 6, Act. Because let's be real, data is completely useless if you don't do anything with it. The analysts worked with company leaders to roll out changes based on the findings. Their big recommendation: standardize the hiring and evaluation process across the entire company, leaning into those efficient, transparent practices the data highlighted.
So, the million-dollar question, did it work? Well, a year later, they ran the exact same survey. The comparison was undeniable. Replacing that messy onboarding process with standardized hiring drastically improved retention. The action plan was a huge success, saving the company tons of money and creating a much better environment for the team. The 6-phase process worked exactly like it's supposed to.
We've seen it all come together. Spreadsheets organize, query languages retrieve, programming languages analyze, and visualization tools tell the story. All of it guided by a structured 6-phase roadmap. See, data analysis isn't just about crunching math. It's about solving real-world business problems and actually improving human experiences. So, equipped with this powerful Data Analyst Toolbelt, what real-world mystery are you going to solve next? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.